Hi everyone, welcome to Show It Better, and in today's video we're going to see how to create this image using Photoshop and SketchUp. Okay guys, so basically this is a pretty simple image. What we have to do is first I opened my 3D model. My 3D model is the one from the Market Plaza. Maybe some of you guys remember it from the past tutorials. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this Market Plaza in the floor plan view, in the top plan view, which you guys can go uh, and do it. And you want to have your field of view in about 45 degrees, right? So we don't want an image that has too much perspective on it. We just want it to be like a more or less technical image that when we see it from above, we think that it's a parallel projection, but it's not quite the parallel projection, right? So as soon as we have this in top view with a 45% field of view, we also want to obviously hide the roof. I just right click on the roof group and pressed on hide. You guys can unhide it later. And after you do this, we want to take out 3 renders, right? So the first render is um, a normal textured render, and you guys can go to your V-Ray asset editor, choose the size, the render output. I used all of these a 16:9 ratio, which I think it was the best one, and I put it in super extra high quality. I also selected the render ID channels and the material ID. And after you do this, you want to render out your image, your first basic image, right? So let's do that. So this is the result of our first basic render. Now what we're going to do is we are going to render 2 types of clay renderings, one with very soft shadows and one with more or less hard shadows. So how you define this, how the difference is the size multiplier, the size of the sun. So for the very soft shadows, we're going to put the size of the sun at about 150 to 200. And once we render this, we are also going to render another one that has the size about 40 to 30 to 40%, right? So the shadows are not that hard, but they're hard, but with the edges are a little bit softer, right? And obviously you want to turn the material override option on, so you would have like a clay type of rendering, an ambient occlusion rendering. And that's it. That's the first step, and we are finished with SketchUp for now. So uh, you guys can go and open Photoshop, and as soon as you open Photoshop, you want to start dragging in your images, right? So you want to drag in your base normal rendering and your 2 clay renderings and your material ID. As soon as you guys drag these images in, we are going to overlay the images that are on top, so we can blend both of these styles. So first, our base rendering is going to be our soft shadows. So as soon as we have our soft shadows in the first line of layers, we are going to select our hard shadows and set this layer to overlay. So you can go to your layer options and set it to overlay. Once we have this, that is our base image, it's ready. Now we're going to turn on our normal render. We're going to put it on top of everything. And what I want to do is I want to take the texture from the floor of my normal render, and I want it to separate it from the rest of the render, and so I can just overlay it on top later. So the problem with that I had here was that my material ID and my render ID didn't export as I expected, so I couldn't make a quick selection of my floor just by pressing on the wand tool. So I had to select the floor manually with my lasso tool. So you can press L on your keyboard and select your floor. Nonetheless, if you exported your render ID and your floor is separated, like it's in a different color from the rest of your elements, then you don't have to do this process. You just press W on your keyboard for wand tool and select the yellow parts, or the color of your floor, and everything is going to be selected, right? So right here I selected with my lasso tool, and as soon as I have that selected, I am going to press Control J on my keyboard so I can separate that selection from the base layer, and maybe I can name that layer floor texture. What we want to do to that floor texture is first apply an adjustment layer that's black and white, and then set it to multiply. Once we set it to multiply, it's gonna just grab it in and look much more adequate in your image. Now I'm going to repeat the same process for my exterior floor, which I think has a very nice texture. So this is just repeating the same process, lasso tool, Control J, and setting it to multiply and putting it in black and white, right? So that is our first step, and we have our basic image right now, which looks fine. Now, one of the problems with this image is that the context was not very was not detailed in its 3D modeling, and it looked like its axes, its main axes didn't look as I don't like as interesting with the main building, or the main design of the building. So what I needed to do was regularize this image, so you can just see the main building, the floor plan of the building. In the context, you couldn't see it as much. So what I did, and I'm just gonna speed through this because it's not that important. It really depends on the building, but in this building I had sort of a problems making it look well. So what I did was just erase the whole context, and I just had made a lasso selection tool of my building, and put it in another layer. Control J, put in another layer, and I applied some soft shadows outside of the building, so it still looks like it's part of a render, part of a normal render. And our final step, which we're going to do, is we're going to colorize our plan, right? So we're going to select everything that we want to be colorized, which it's basically the whole building, which is the style of this plan, and we're going to select it with our lasso tool. You can press your lasso tool and select all of the building perimeter, and create an adjustment layer of hue and saturation. Now you can go down to colorize, and you can colorize this. I use a little bit of saturation, and I use a red tone, but you can use different tones. And that is basically going to be it, right? From here you can do many adjustments, many modifications. You can add some text if you want. This is supposed to be more like an artistic, very conceptual plan. The key here for you guys to know is that you have very nice shadows. So as you guys can see, these the midst of the soft and hard shadows really gives a lot of depth to the image. Also, the key over here is to have a field of view of not that wide, right? We don't want a very perspective mode, just a very close field of view. And finally, we want a very high resolution image. So as you guys can see, if we get very close up in these images, they look very nice because they look in very high resolution. So we can print them out in some big scale, and it's still going to look interesting, right? So the interesting thing about these images is that from far away, it also looks very nice. So I know sometimes this can be a very simple procedure. This is not a very complex tutorial where there are a lot of things happening like before. This is a very simple procedure, but the key is to having very basic colors and very minimal stuff, right? So sometimes I know we get very excited and we want to put some trees, we want to put people, we want to put a lot of text, we want to put a lot of colors, we want to put some real colors in the plans, but we start to saturate our images and they don't look as minimal and cool as we thought it would be, or as we wanted them to be. So the key here is to just do some basic, small, little adjustments like that are very detailed and very well executed, and just leave the image as is. So if you guys are having a building with 3 floor plans or 4 floor plans, or just one main floor plan, this can be a very awesome style for the image, because we can still distinguish the different spaces of the image. We can distinguish, which rooms are closed, which rooms are open, if they had columns, if not. So we can still read the plan pretty easily, but it doesn't have to have so much information that it just saturates our eyes and fills up our sheet. So remember, the white space around it is much more valuable, and it makes the building stand out much more when there's more white space. So if you guys have everything crammed into one image, then it doesn't look as cool as we want it to look. So I hope you guys understood this last part, which was the most important part, that it's not if a tutorial is very complex or it's very easy. It's how you guys apply it to your images. And remember to be very minimalistic. Sometimes, as me said, less is more, and in this case it's totally true, right? So if we just leave it as it is, it's going to look much more interesting. So I hope you guys liked this video. Remember that you can have the full access to the Photoshop file, and have the access to the real-time, I think it was 1 hour video of this file in our Patreon page. So you guys can go to www.patreon.com/showitbetter, or there's a link down below, so if you guys want to see it. And you guys can watch this video and all of the videos I've been uploading, and all of the PSD files I've been uploading. If you guys want some inside secrets, if you guys want to learn more stuff from the videos, which are much more detailed in their narration, then I suggest you guys visit over there. And thank you guys for watching. If you guys use this method, maybe send me a message through Instagram and we can see it. So thank you. Bye.